everyone, and welcome to the new season of the DTM 2018. Welcome from the Hockenheim ring. We already had a very strong race yesterday, race 1, where Mercedes-Benz actually returned pretty strong into the new season. But BMW is also very strong, and with me is a pole setter, Timo Glock. Timo, yesterday you already had a great day with a P3. Today you've got pole in qualifying, so I guess everything's looking like it could be a perfect race today.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, it was a very good qualifying, very strong lap from myself, I have to say, but the car was as well really well balanced, and I just could get the lap together, and it was good to be in P1 in that last minute, which gives you the perfect start into the race. But the race is long, we saw it yesterday. It's going to be hard to keep these tires alive, and it seemed like the Mercedes was slightly better. But now we need to watch out as well for Rene, who somehow find a miracle overnight, I think. So yeah, we need to watch out for him, because the Audis normally are very good on long run pace. So it's going to be a tough fight, a tough hour which is coming up, but we're ready for it.
All right, well, best of luck, Timo. Thank you so much. And I thought it was pretty sweet, actually. Over the radio, Timo said when the qualifying was done, we did this together as a team. I'm only driving the car. So crossing my fingers for Timo. And now to the commentator.
Well, I wholeheartedly agree. He did credit the team for giving him a car which has delivered pole position for Timo Glock. So brilliant effort from Timo Glock, and also from BMW, as we see Matias Ekström, who of course will start his last race in DTM. But back to BMW, and Timo Glock has done a great job in qualifying, and let's hear the impressions of the boss of BMW, Jens Marquardt.
And now I'm here with Jens Marquardt. Now, you started into the season really well with a third place with Timo Glock, but today you even topped it with a qualifying. Timo starting as pole setter. It looks like it could be a really perfect day today.
Well, it's perfect weather already. And we're starting on pole. That's two things that are already good, but we know it's a 1 hour race and it's going to be tough. We have a second car in third, which is a good one as well. So we just now need to deliver. Yesterday, I think we've seen the potential, but in the race we left something on the table. Hopefully today we can make full use of that. And Timo was really strong always on a Saturday last year. Now he's on pole on a Sunday. Maybe that can also then be a change for him for this year. And I've always said it, Timo has all it takes. So yeah, we'll see. We'll push.
I'm sure you will. Thank you very much, Jens Marquardt. Back to you.
Of course, we should make mention of the fact Joel Ericsson, a rookie, is going from P3 on the grid, but pole position, Timo Glock, and the current champion, Rene Rast, who found something overnight for Howdy, going from P2. As I mentioned, Joel Ericsson going from P3 with Eduardo Mortara in P4. We find Lucas Auer P5, Paul de Resta will be going from P6 on the grid. And to the fourth row of the grid, it's Daniel Juncadea and Marco Wittmann. On the next row, we find Mike Rockefeller and Gary Paffett going from P10. Of course, yesterday's race winner, Gary Paffett. Pascal Wehrlein and Loic Duval share the sixth row of the grid. It's P11 and P12. Augusto Farfus and Robin Frins are P13 and P14. And on the eighth row of the grid, it's Nico Muller and Jamie Green, although more to tell about Jamie Green in just a moment. Because rounding out the grid, we find Philipp Eng, and starting his last ever DTM race, Mattias Ekström, with Bruno Spengler bringing up the rear from P19. So I mentioned Jamie Green. He is in the pit lane as we speak and will be joining the formation lap and having to start from the very back of the grid. So he'll be joining the back of the formation lap and will start the race not in his grid position but right from the very back as we look at Bruno Spengler. And Bruno Spengler then, because of this blocking incident in qualifying, his time a 1:33, best time, but because of this blocking situation, Bruno Spengler sent to the very back, although it'll be Jamie Green that will end up being behind him because Jamie Green having to start from the pit lane into the formation lap. Mattias Ekström then, it's the final race in DTM for Mattias Ekström. Philipp Eng, the Samsung BMW M4 DTM then, is going from P17 on the grid, which actually will become P16 because of Jamie Green's situation in the pit lane. And what a qualifying performance from another BMW rookie into DTM this year, Joel Ericsson, who will be going from P P3. So there is Jamie Green's car, and you saw just before seeing Jamie Green's car the very grid box that he should be in. We know not why at this moment Jamie Green was not able to make it onto the grid. The car is going to go, and we are told...
And now I'm here with Dieter Gas. Now, yesterday was kind of a day to forget for Audi, if I may say so, but it looks like you found a miracle overnight, at least in regards to Rene Rast.
Well, honestly, we have been quite concerned yesterday with the result. We did a lot of work to analyze and do things and make changes. But if I look at the grid, we have the car in front which has done the least changes, which is a bit of a surprise to us. The cars that made major changes, they are further down. But okay, we need to see as well the race performance. But for sure, it's a lot better to start from P2 rather than P9.
Absolutely. So best of luck for the race. It's going to be a tough race, especially since René is, of course, sandwiched between two BMWs. But I'm sure fingers are crossed. So thank you very much, and back to you.
So as I was saying, and apologies for that, but always good to hear from Dieter Gas from Audi. Jamie Green then couldn't make his position onto the grid, goes from the pit lane, will start at the back of the formation lap, and that's where he will stay. Loic Duval about to jump into his car. Loic Duval going from P12 on the grid, and there is Pascal Wehrlein, the number 94 car going from P11 on the grid. Finished the race yesterday, P5, as Pascal Wehrlein, of course, former DTM champion, youngest ever DTM champion, returns into DTM following his forays into Formula One. But Gary Paffett, who, of course, took the victory yesterday, and it was a very dominant performance from the British driver, in qualifying couldn't get it all together and goes from P10. So work to do for Gary Paffett then, the British driver, from P10 on the grid. And there we can see Mike Rockenfeller, another former champion, of course. And Mike Rockenfeller is going from P9 on the grid. So Audi then, in some respects, having found something overnight, because Rene Rast going from P2. Timo Glock having found the most, though. And, of course, Timo was in fine fettle yesterday on the podium for P3, but going from pole position today. 55 minutes plus 1 lap. With the mandatory pit stop as well, Marco Wittmann then going from P8 on the grid, a 1:32.7, the best that Marco Wittmann could deliver during that very hot qualifying session just earlier on today. And we will see what Marco can deliver from there. Yesterday, well, his race finish matched the result. It's P11, the same number as, of course, Marco Wittmann races with. Daniel Juncadella back in DTM, the young Spanish driver. And the number 23 car finishing P8 yesterday. And Daniel Juncadella going from P7 on the grid. So we'll see what Daniel Juncadella can do from there. At moments during qualifying, Paul di Resta looked blisteringly quick. When it counted, unfortunately, he only managed to deliver P6. I say only. And 4, if not 5 cars, all in the 1:32.6s. And Lucas Auer, who I had a conversation with last night, I couldn't help but feel when Lucas Auer was on the podium yesterday for his P2 finish, he looked really rather grumpy. And Lucas said, well, it's exactly as you said on the air, Dave. It's basically because I was P2 and not P1. As a racing driver, P2 is not good enough. So we'll see what Lucas Auer can do from P5 on the grid. Eduardo Mortara, the best of the Mercedes-Benz drivers in that Supreme livery, is going from P4. So in the sunshine, big crowds here at Hockenheim, 55 minutes plus 1 lap race to come. And what a qualifying performance from this young man for BMW. Joel Ericsson, rookie into the DTM. And Joel Ericsson has put that car P3. Finished the race P12 yesterday. Joel Ericsson having done a very, very good job in qualifying. He goes from the second row of the grid. Rene Rast then going from P2. And, of course, Timo Glock, the BMW driver, going from P1 on the grid. So the scene is set for what should be another fantastic race. We're looking for a carbon copy of all the drama and the excitement we saw yesterday in the first race of the DTM season for 2018. All the ingredients are there to deliver once again. Okay, let's go through the grid one by one. Timo Glock from P1, Rene Rast from P2. Then it's Joel Ericsson and Eduardo Mortara. Then we find Lucas Aaron, Paul de Resta and Daniel Junkerdea and Marco Wittmann for the second race of DTM in 2018. Then it's Mike Rockefeller and Gary Paffett. Yesterday's victor, Gary Paffett. Pascal Wehrlein and Loic Duval are on row 6 of the grid. And on row 7, it's Augusto Farfus and Robin Frins with Nico Muller and Jamie Green being shown there on row 8 of the grid. I'll tell you more in a mo. Philip Eng and Mattias Ekström, of course, Matias with his last ever DTM race. And then Bruno Spengler blocked during qualifying and goes from the back of the grid. Although he won't be at the back of the grid, it will be Jamie Green, because Jamie Green's car is in the pit lane. And he will be joining the formation lap at the back of the grid, and that's where he will have to start the race from. Eduardo Mortara then, his qualifying time, a 1:32.623. One of 5 drivers in the 1:32.6s. That's how close it is in DTM. Edo Mortara going from P4 on the grid. P3, Joel Ericsson. Young superstar then in the making, no question about that. And as a DTM rookie, to put that car P3 in qualifying earlier today, a remarkable achievement and very noteworthy indeed. Rene Rast, current champion. Yesterday in the race, Audi really struggled. All of a sudden, overnight, it would appear, particularly for the Rene Rast car, of course, engineered by the Rosberg team, they've found something, because during qualifying, the quali pace he had, all right, he was 2 tenths down on Timo Glock's pole sitting time, but he is going from P2 on the grid, and Timo Glock then blasted his way through qualifying and delivered a time of 1:32.379, which gives him that P1 position for the race, which is not very many moments from getting underway. So the grid girls leave the DTM grid. The whistles are blown by the marshals, and we are about to go racing. 55 minutes plus 1 lap. Mandatory pit stop, of course, for tyre change. And we did hear Timo Glock indicating that to get the tyres in the temperature that we have, the track temperature and ambient temperatures that we have here at Hockenheim today, to get the tyres to last is going to be a big ask indeed. So we will see how it all develops and how it all pans out. So the trophy that every driver is aiming for is sat there right in the middle of the pack then, and all the drivers will go past. So Jamie Green then is in the car, and as I say, we still don't know what was wrong with Jamie Green's car, but basically the rules are, if you can't make it to your grid box, you have to go from the pit lane, and if you go from the pit lane, it does mean that you're not going to be able to occupy the grid position that you had. You've got to go from the very back of the grid. So Jamie Green with work to do. He had work to do yesterday, to be fair, the British driver, and actually finished the race plumb last, P19, unfortunately, for Jamie Green. So perhaps a weekend to forget for the British driver. Lots and lots and lots of race fans here to enjoy the DTM race action. And there you can see the man that will go from P1 on the grid. And the pace he had during qualifying, if he can convert that quali pace into race pace, well, is he going to be unstoppable? Only time will tell. So the engines roar into life. We are standing by. We are delighted that you're with us, because we have another fantastic race to come. Yesterday's race, 55 minutes plus 1 lap. It seemed to go in 5 minutes because there was so much going on. Delighted to have alongside me one of the BMW junior drivers, Ricky Collard, who made his on-air debut with me yesterday and made such a good job of it. We said, please, will you come back again? And here he is for this race. Hello, Ricky. You've been out there driving a DTM car, of course, as a race taxi. How's the day been for you so far?
Yeah, well, good afternoon. Yeah, the track conditions today are absolutely perfect. I had a little run around the track yesterday, and what is really interesting is when we do our taxi rides.
Yes.
If you look on the inside, where we have Rene Rast.
Yes.
And
so
Eduardo,
to the very left of the picture
yeah,
now.
and Eduardo Mortara, you can see these black lines that are coming onto the circuit. that's where we have to do the burnout.
So that's you putting the rubber down.
Well, yeah, but what would be interesting to see is if the guys on the inside use that rubber to get a really good launch at the start.
Of course, it's making the track conditions for them, well, even better. Race 2 of 20 then, here we go. We are so looking forward to the 2018 season, and that's the trophy that, of course, every driver wants, the 2018 Champions Trophy. Jamie Green, he's got to go from the pit lane, as you can see. He's not released until the whole bunch of cars have gone through. This will be so immensely frustrating for him. Ricky, we know not why. There's obviously the team were working on the car, found something, had to do something to the car which prevented him taking his grid box, presumably.
Definitely, but the main thing is that Jamie's back out there now.
Yes.
So that's obviously a big positive, but he's got a lot of work to do today.
Well, yes, he has. Credit to the team for air temperature 27.7. The temperature inside the BMW of Timo Glock will be feverish because Timo wants to convert this P1 into the race lead going into turn number 1. He and Rene Rast have to wait the longest for the rest of the cars to join the back of the grid. Jamie Green is there. Whatever was wrong with the car, hopefully they have sorted it out. We're on the starter's gantry. We need 5 lights. When we have 5 and they are extinguished, we will go racing. 55 minutes plus 1 lap of hot rockin' DTM to come. The green flag from the marshal at the rear. The start sequence is underway. For the second time in 2018, let's go racing. A brilliant start from Lucas Auer. An awful start from Eduardo Mortara, who does not get away. Lucas Auer already up to P3, having got past Joel Ericsson. Edo Mortara, for whatever reason, did not get away, and now is right at the back of the pack. Timo Glock leads Rene Rast, Lucas Auer, Joel Ericsson and Paul de Resta are battling over P4 and 5. So as they make their way onto the Parabolica for the first time of asking in this race, there, under investigation, is Lucas Auer for a jump start. So, Lucas Auer was hot out of the blocks, that's for sure. Was he too out of the blocks? Well, we will see. They have sensors all over the grid boxes so they can tell, as Lucas Auer on the outside now of Rene Rast. Look at Paul de Resta. He's on a charge. Timo Glock, though, is doing what he needs to do, and that's to try and buy some space away from Rene Rast. What he's trying to do is break the 1 second he needs, because if Rene Rast is within 1 second of Timo Glock, that will give him DRS when DRS is enabled. So all the cars come through now. Eduardo Mortara's not right at the back of the pack. Right at the back of the pack is the number 23 car of Daniel Juncadella. So Jamie Green's car, thankfully, is running. He's behind Matias Ekström. There's Eduardo Mortara, really bogging down at the start. Really good avoidance by all the drivers. Ricky, who none of them clattered into the Eduardo Mortara car. And, when you're so focused on the race start, it must be so difficult.
Definitely, and I hope we get to see a slow motion replay of that, because we had cars going to the left, cars going to the right. I think Paffett must have skimmed the wall as he went to the inside of Montara there, but Montara is on a charge, isn't he? He was right at the back, and already he's climbed a couple of places, P16 already.
We're seeing on the screen that a pit stop penalty of 5 seconds will be added to Lucas Auer, so he's at P3 at the moment, but he is going to have to be in his pit box for 5 seconds longer than anybody else. Now you can see Timo Glock has done a fantastic job as we go through the Parabolica here. He's not quite got a second ahead. And now, well, Rene Rast there having to defend very hard. This is a brilliant heli shot as Jamie Green on the inside of Eduardo Mortara. But here comes Lucas Auer. Now, despite the fact he's got that 5 second time penalty, he's got to continue and push and push. And there is Gary Paffett getting past Joel Ericsson. So Gary Paffett, who showed incredible pace yesterday, he's on a charge as well. So Joel Ericsson has got now Mike Rockenfeller for company. Here it comes.
Keep your eyes here on Gary Paffett as well.
And Lucas Auer he definitely went before the lights went out, didn't he, Ricky?
Just ever so quick, ever so quick.
But look at that, yeah, you're right. Gary Paffett almost skimmed that wall, didn't he, in avoidance of Edo Mortara. And the other one that didn't get away, which I hadn't picked up on, was Daniel Juncadella, which is why he's right at the back of the pack. Wow. So Glock is leading from Rast. Then it's Lucas Auer. Then it's De Resta. Then it is Gary Paffett. Gary Paffett up to P5 already. We are not even 5 minutes into this race. Now, Danny Juncadella, he's got a pit stop penalty of 5 seconds for a jump start, as Eduardo Mortara, it would appear, might be retiring this car. Now, the reason Juncadella bogged down is because presumably, Ricky, he would have released the clutch, crept just a little bit, which is what, which means he took advantage almost. He came back off the power, but then, of course, it's too late. You've ruined your start sequence, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely. I also had a little chat as well this morning with Philip, because obviously he had the similar problem, but no, I think obviously these cars are really difficult to start, and you have to preload the clutch so much, and it's amazing how much they can preload these cars.
Because it's like a launch control almost, isn't it?
Basically like a launch control. It's you launch off of this earth, I think, when they go away. But yeah, I think they're 0 to 100 kph in under 3 seconds. So
that's frightening.
From a rear-wheel drive car, that's it's quite good.
So now Glock has Rast, Auer, De Resta right behind him, and what Timo Glock has not been able to do is get a full second ahead of Rene Rast. So Rast, Auer, De Resta, they've all got DRS available to them. And Gary Paffett is in that P5 position. So just to confirm, time penalties being added to the pit stops of Daniel Juncadella and also to Lucas Auer. So both of those Mercedes drivers being penalised for jumping the start. Timo Glock continues to lead. We're on board with Gary Paffett now, who has done a fantastic job in the early stages of this race. Victorious yesterday. Oh, how he would love to make it 2 out of 2. So Gary Paffett, this is a fantastic onboard shot of Gary at work in the office there around the parabolica. He's got Paul De Resta ahead of him, and Lucas Auer, look, tracking Rene Rast, the current DTM champion. So Rast, whoa, he makes that car as wide as possible to deny Lucas Auer, who will try and get up the inside now, but is unable to do so. That was a perfect strategy there, wasn't it, Ricky, from Rene Rast, making that car very wide?
Yeah, definitely. I think he's definitely got his elbows out. He doesn't want Lucas to come through, but here comes Lucas on the inside.
I think he's done it. He has. Lucas Auer goes through. If he can keep the momentum, he will deny Rene Rast. He has. That was a great overtake, Ricky. You saw that coming. Very,
very late on the brakes. Fantastic control there not to lock up as well, but here we see Paul De Resta now is going to be pushing even harder to try and get past Rast.
So, Rene Rast then, who did a great job in qualifying. There were questions about whether the quali pace would be able to be replicated in the race. Well, at the moment you have to say, or you have to question that. So Glock, of course, whilst this is all happening, it's playing into the hands of Timo Glock, who's able to get up the road now and escape, isn't he? And it's gone from 6/10 to a margin now of 1.5. So Auer is out of the DRS window. He cannot use DRS to try and gain on Glock.
Yeah, definitely. Now, obviously, Glock is going to be rubbing his hands together if he can get that, keep that gap over a second to stay out of the DRS. But be interested now to see if Lucas can start to reel them in. But yeah, this is going to be a straight dogfight now for lap time.
Oh, isn't it just? So the top 5 then have broken away a bit from the Joel Ericsson car, which is running in P6. A very creditable performance from the rookie, as Timo Glock turns into the hairpin. Lucas Auer, Rene Rast close together. Paul De Resta, Gary Paffett close together. Of course, those two are both Mercedes drivers, but you have to favour at the moment potentially Gary Paffett, who has really cut his way through the pack. There is Joel Ericsson, as I mentioned, a rookie driver who's running in P6. Joel Ericsson finishing the race yesterday in P12, but astounding us all with his qualifying performance this morning. Glock leads from Auer, from Rast, from De Resta and Paffett. Now the top 5 really have sort of spaced themselves all really rather equally. But of course, what we have to throw into the mix here, Ricky, is the fact that all these drivers have got to take a mandatory pit stop, and this involves the team as much as it does the driver in terms of strategically when to do it. As we watch now, Lucas Auer, he's right on the back here of Rene Rast, and then very late to dive to the inside. Rene Rast looks to turn in and then sees the gap that he wants to turn into, full of the gold Lucas Auer car. So yes, back to what I was saying, strategically, the teams and the drivers work together to decide when it's best to come in, do they not?
Yes, so obviously the team radio is banned now, so it can only come from the drivers. So the drivers make the decision on when to box. But what we might see now is we might see, for example, as Gary is catching up now to Paul, Gary might take the earlier pit stop to try and jump him in the queue a little bit. So, but obviously then his tyres will go off a bit more towards the end.
Because the point I was making with regards to strategy is, appreciating that radio is banned now in that regard, this strategically is all discussed before the race starts, isn't it, Ricky? Come on.
There's got to be
You're a racing driver.
There's a plan, but how often does the plan ever come together? I think one man whose plan is coming together quite nicely right now is Timo Glock.
Absolutely. He's doing a great job, isn't he? He's maintaining that 1.5 second margin over Lucas Auer. We're on board with Gary Paffett, who's chasing down Paul Di Resta, who ran out just a bit wide a little moment ago and cut up a bit of dust. But he, of course, is chasing down Rene Rast, the current DTM champion.
Too hard, but it's
and Gary here, wily Gary. He's been in the business a long time. He knows how to drive. But he also knows that if he can use Paul Di Resta to do the work ahead of him, then he's going to take less out of his tyres, isn't he? But at the moment, I would say Di Resta is not close enough quite to Rast to be able to do anything. And of course, the advantage of having DRS is disadvantaged, isn't it? Because Rast can use his DRS to defend. So whatever Paul Di Resta has to offer in terms of DRS, because I think Rast is still within a second of Lucas Auer, isn't he?
Only just, yeah. So what would be interesting now is when Lucas Auer opens that up to over a second.
Yes.
I think we're going to see a bit more of an attack here from Paul. I think Paul might be waiting, and obviously Rast is going to be using. So there, Paul isn't actually, his DRS is completely closed. He hasn't even got.
He's not using it, is he?
He's not using it. He's counting his chickens, as they say, I think, and waiting to let them all out.
But you made a very good point earlier on. I mean, we can see the DRS lap availability that's left to the drivers on the left-hand side of your screen. Basically, you've got the DRS availability. You have 3 uses of DRS in 1 lap. Whether you use 1, 2, or whatever, you actually lose 3 of them. We found yesterday a lot of drivers finishing with DRS capacity spare, which seems stupid, doesn't it? We also saw a number of drivers ran out of DRS, and we can see that a number of them already are down to just 7 left. But Timo Glock, clearly, he's always going to have 12 because he hasn't had to use them at all. He's leading the race. Auer, Rast and Di Resta and Paffett, I would suggest, are in strong positions here because they've got 11 and 10 respectively. So we'll see how it plays out. Right, this, a replay of the start then, the obvious jump start from Lucas Auer, the not getting away from Daniel Juncadella and Eduardo Mortara, and I have to say, huge respect to all the drivers who look at that in a millisecond, Ricky, have to avoid stricken cars.
That was amazing avoidance there by all of them. Oh, here we go, riding on board with Gary.
That was the one you mentioned, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, he had it actually he was obviously looking quite far ahead, but Marco Wittmann had a big slide. Oh, that's not good to see, is it?
No. No. We can see from that rearward onboard camera. Well, Lucas is paying the price for that because, of course, when he comes in for his pit stop, he's got a 5-second time penalty. Now, actually, with Gary getting past that stricken car, you know, immediately, right at the start of the race, he's moved up, hasn't he? I mean, he did jolly well to control the car and to avoid it. But, of course, that has put him into a very, very strong P5 position at the moment. And who knows, it could become P4 because now he's putting the pressure on Paul Di Resta and is on the inside of Di Resta, and Gary Paffett goes through. Just as I say it, it does go from P5 to P4. So Paffett now is in P4, having got past Paul Di Resta, and next in the target sights of the Mercedes-Benz British driver is going to be the current DTM champion, Rene Rast. Here it is. He set this up perfectly, didn't he?
Yeah, but that was a big lunge. He came from quite a far way back to do that, so that was obviously a great move. Obviously no lock-up as well, which is great, but he is a little bit heavier on the DRS compared to Paul.
Yeah, you're right. So Paul could come back at him, couldn't he?
Well, I think if we have to do the secret assassin again, I reckon it might be Mr. Di Resta that's going to be there at the end of the race.
So many people have spoken about that. You know, that's down to you. I can't accept any of that. Secret assassin is copyright Ricky Collard.
We have to select one for each race.
Right. 5 seconds is the length of time that number 23 car of Daniel Juncadella has to sit in that box. That must be frustrating, and it must feel like 5 minutes.
Absolutely. I've been in that position, not in a real race, but in a hire kart race, I must say. So
in a hire
there
car?
for the penalty,
a hire
they
kart.
needed
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
I thought you'd been abusing rental cars once again, young man.
But yeah, it does feel like an eternity, I must say.
Right, Juncker Day is on his way out. I'll tell you what, it's a good time from them, 7.1. But of course, he is the first then to have taken his mandatory pit stop. Unfortunately, we've lost Eduardo Mortara. He has decided to box the car. And there, Joel Ericsson and Mike Rockenfeller, who are continuing this fight. This is the fight for P6. And at last, Mike Rockenfeller has got past Joel Ericsson. And right behind Joel Ericsson now is the number 94 car of Pascal Wehrlein. So Pascal Wehrlein returning to the DTM for 2018. There's Mike Rockenfeller with the Audi then, who, as you can see, is now running ahead of Joel Ericsson. So it's P6 for Mike Rockenfeller. I have to say that Audi, from a pace point of view, Ricky, look, I mean, they've obviously worked extremely hard overnight, and they look better now, don't they? Although the leading Audi, which is running in P3 of Rene Rast, is being caught now by Gary Paffett. The margin between the two of them is just 5/10. We're on board with Gary Paffett now as he lining up Rene Rast. So hopefully we'll stay with this onboard shot, because Paffett is right on Rene Rast now. And now this Parabolica part of the circuit with DRS availability. The DTM champion for 2005 is reeling in the Audi. He goes to the outside of Rene Rast, and it's going to be a relatively easy overtake for Gary Paffett. What he now needs to do is to break that 1 second gap that he needs to between himself and Rene Rast, so that he hasn't got, Rene Rast doesn't have DRS to come back at Gary Paffett.
Yeah, definitely. It's quite interesting as well. We've seen Rast run quite wide on a multiple of laps going into the hairpin there. So it's obviously maybe the car's struggling a little bit in the low speed relative to the Mercedes. The Mercedes looks quite good in that area. But then at the same time, you know, it's a cat and mouse. The Audi looks quite good at high speed. But it'll be interesting to see if we ride on board with Rast in the slow corners.
Okay, so we're on board with him now and listening to everything that you're saying, because that's exactly what we're doing. This was the overtake then over the Rene Rast car. That in replay. And Rene Rast really defenseless to do anything about that. And Gary Paffett knows exactly where to place the car to make sure that the overtake sticks. So we are back on board with Rene Rast now, and we're heading up to corners where he could make the difference, aren't we?
Yeah, definitely. The car is looking good in the fast change of direction. It just looks like it's struggling a little bit in the low speed, but he's pushing. He's really, really pushing. He's trying his best. And also same with Rocky there. You can see all the guys are right out on the exit curve, which looks great.
Into the pit lane from P6, Paul Di Resta. So Di Resta choosing to come in quite early relative to some of the others. We will see if that pays off for Paul Di Resta then. 8.1 second the stop there. It was beaten by a whole second by the previous stop for Daniel Juncker-Deyer. But of course Juncker-Deyer was in the pit box, the pit stop penalty box for 5 seconds as well. What we haven't done, as we can see, Joel Ericsson under pressure now from Pascal Wehrlein. Pascal Wehrlein goes through, but Joel Ericsson fights back. This is brilliant as they head down towards the next turn. Joel Ericsson says, yeah, you can try. However, Joel has got the momentum now. Pascal Wehrlein is going to be run out to the inside, but if he stays inside, Pascal should go through. Joel Ericsson, unfortunately, does yield and loses out on that place. I say unfortunately because he did a brilliant job in terms of coming back at him. Look at the focus on Pascal Wehrlein as he looks into the rear-view mirror and says, right, I have done it. You're not coming back at me. So Pascal Wehrlein, of course, former DTM champion. Oh, look at the focus and the concentration. This is a brilliant onboard shot with the driver hard at work. And talking of being hard at work, Lucas Auer and Timo Glock. Now, last time around, 1.7, it's 1.8 now. So Timo Glock is doing a fantastic job of just managing that gap and actually even increased it by a tenth in the last lap, Ricky. So forgive me, Timo, we've not talked about you much because there's been so much going on behind you, but he's just quietly going about his work and doing a great job, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely, but you can see how close they all are on lap times. It was 1.5 20 minutes ago, so it's literally they're trading hundredths of a second.
Yes. War. And that, as the cars, and in particular the car of Loic Duval, is over the rumble strips, AstroTurf, tarmac, you name it. Of course, Hockenheim here, Formula One circuit, plenty of runoff area. And now this is coming into the hairpin, and we can see it's Marco Wittmann who is being chased down by Nico Müller. In fairness, Augusto Farfus not far behind. Fastest lap comes from Daniel Juncadella, who of course has been in to change tyres, hasn't he? So 1:34.926 as Marco Wittmann continues to be under pressure here from Nico Müller, and Augusto Farfus trying to buy into this battle as well. It's the battle that's going on for P10 at the moment. So Marco Wittmann in that P10 position. There's Nico Müller. There is Augusto Farfus, the Brazilian racer, who is currently sitting in P12. And there's quite a train of cars there, isn't there? All fighting over that P10 position, final points-paying position, as Timo Glock crosses the timing line once again and increases still further a little bit his margin, Ricky. So he's just, as I said, quietly going about his job. As in now comes the number 47 car of Joel Ericsson from that P7 place. In also comes Nico Müller. So the team set to work on the Joel Ericsson car. So Joel Ericsson then engineered by the RBM team of BMW, and he's back out once again. So Joel Ericsson will return into the race. Here is Nico Müller. So the Nico Müller car, of course, engineered by AB team. And Müller then out in 7.1 seconds. It's a remarkable short space of time in which to change all those tyres, Ricky.
Yep, definitely. I don't think you get that at your local Halfords.
No, you probably don't.
But now, again, they're on these cold tyres. Let's see them work the car and try and build some heat into the tyres, because Danny Juncadella here has the fastest lap time, but obviously he's sort of out compared to where everyone else is in track position.
Absolutely, and this is where the strategy is so important, isn't it, in terms of deciding when you're going to come in. I'm guessing with the pace at the moment, I mean, Timo Glock is still the quickest of all the drivers out there, perhaps with the exception of the Daniel Juncadella, of course. You know, he's in the 135s. So at the moment, I would suggest that because he's untroubled at the front and his tyres are performing relatively well, he's not having to be too aggressive, is he? Yeah. For him to stay out the longest he possibly can, surely that will be of an advantage to him. Yeah,
definitely. They've got no reason to pit right now. So I'm sure Timo obviously will know that. And as we got that Marco Wittmann into the pits now from our commentary booth.
Yeah, I think you're right. As we watch the team stand by to change the wheels on the double DTM champion 2014-2016. He was victorious in the championship and makes his way back out again now. Marco Wittmann then 7.5 second stop for Marco Wittmann. So we have 5 drivers that have stopped thus far. And here is Joel Ericsson then, having returned to the track. And here comes Marco Wittmann. He will be absolutely defenseless to Nico Müller because, as you mentioned just briefly, they're cold tyres, because where once, a couple of years ago, we had tyre warmers in DTM, so the tyres were almost up to temperature before they were even put on the car. Those have been completely banned now. So, you know, that makes the cars very vulnerable, doesn't it, as soon as you come out of your pit change. And
another thing as well, you have what they call cold graining.
Right.
Where if you push too hard and slide the tyres too much, then they can actually rub across the top of the track and make a grain, basically like when you grate cheese.
Okay.
And this is something that when it's on the tyre, it's really, really difficult to get it off. It can probably take up to 2 to 3 laps, as now we see Glock into the pits.
This is the race leader. It's the splitter cam that we had that told us that Glock was coming in. So, the RMG team, hard at work on the Timo Glock car, doesn't want to lose any time in this pit stop. We've seen times at 7.1. It wasn't the quickest, but I think it's good enough. So Timo Glock on his way down the pit lane once again. I say once again, he hasn't been in the pit lane, of course he hasn't, but he's back out onto the track once again. This is Paul de Resta, who is the closest of the drivers that has pitted relative to where Timo Glock is. So here is Timo Glock on cold tyres. He wants to do exactly what Ricky has suggested, avoid being too aggressive and cold graining those tyres, but equally He does not want to let Paul di Resta past us. Gary Paffett get past Lucas Auer. So effectively, Gary Paffett is now leading the race pre his pit stop.
Yeah, definitely, and he's up into, well, P1 now, yeah, like you say, but it'll be interesting now to see how Gary gets on in clear air, if he can just get his head down and get a couple fast lap times in, if he will come out maybe in front of Glock.
Well, it will be interesting to see, won't it? So we await the Gary Paffett pit stop, and that will reveal all. But of course, by that time, Timo Glock's tyres will be up to temperature, won't they? Gary will be at a disadvantage relative because he will be on cold tyres. Oh, and he dives in now. That was a late decision, Ricky.
Very, very, very late. Awesome bit of car control on the way in, and stops the line. Here he goes. See how the Mercedes pit crew get on.
HWA will go to work on the number 2 car of Gary Paffett then, and he pulls the car into the pit box now. Pinpoint accuracy, I mean, that is spot on. Oh, was there a slight problem with that rear? I'm not sure. It's not going to be the quickest time in the world. A 7.5 is not bad as Paffett's on his way out once again. Where is Timo Glock, Ricky? From the window you're looking at now, we can see him on screen now. Here comes Timo Glock. Gary utterly defenceless against Glock and Paul di Resta because he'll be on cold tyres.
There we go, so it'll be interesting now to see how Paul gets on. Yeah,
he'll just drive around the outside of him, won't he? Look at that, because he can do so. However, Gary is going to have younger tyres than Paul di Resta. However, how quickly can he get them up to temperature? Because he doesn't want to lose too much time, does he? He doesn't want the gap to become too big.
I think Paul has played this game extremely well.
Do you?
I think he's pitted at the right time. He's got a good amount of usage. Still got 10, is that 10 DRS usages left?
Absolutely right.
Yep, so he's obviously still got a load of...
No, that's what lap they pitted on. Forgive me.
Yeah,
Forgive me, sorry.
But obviously I know from previous that he has loads of DRS usage left. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see now how maybe they might work together to reel in Glock.
Is Auer going to come in this time around? Bear in mind, Auer has got to... No, he stays out there. In comes Rene Rast, though, and also Mike Rockenfeller. So, yes, the green indicator on the left-hand side of the screen tells you what lap the car's pitted. So we have there the number 33 car of Rene Rast and the number 99 car of Mike Rockenfeller, which leaves us with 7 cars that have not taken their mandatory pit stop. One of those is Lucas Auer, one of those is Pascal Wehrlein, who of course is now running in P2 pre his pit stop. So Rast and Rockenfeller in, and Rocky's going to take Rast in the pit lane. So a problem there with the Rene Rast car, presumably all that pit, all those the wheel change, and Rocky got out ahead of Rene Rast. Both of them will be on cold tyres. And we have seen in the past where mistakes are made when you're on those cold tyres because there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. I mean, Zandvoort last year, hugely experienced Matias Ekström into that Tarzan turn, just lost the car completely on cold tyres. We're on board with Rene Rast now, who's heading up towards the hairpin. There is Glock, di Resta and Paffett, and they all remain within contention. Gary has not let that gap get too big, has he, in terms of rebuilding the temperature into the tyres that he needed?
No, he's kept it obviously within a second, so he's going to stay inside the DRS, which would be perfect for him. So, yeah, I think he is also managing and controlling it extremely well. So it's all playing out to be a perfect finish to the first weekend here in DTM.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. This is Lucas Auer then, who now what he's doing as he's leading the race nominally because he hasn't stopped, I suspect what he's trying to do is just do quali lap after quali lap after quali lap because he's going to lose 5 seconds when he has to take that pit stop penalty, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely, and it's really easy when you're doing that to make a small mistake.
Right.
If you're trying to push on old tyres lap after lap after lap, you know, it's like a runner trying to run flat out for, I don't know, 4 or 5 kilometers. So, you know, you have to be quite manageable with your mental capacity, your physical energy, and obviously what the car is doing underneath you. So,
you've got to manage and juggle all of those things, but that I would suggest is what Lucas Auer is trying to do. He's 4 seconds ahead of Pascal Wehrlein at the moment. There is Timo Glock, who of course is running in P8. But the cars that have not stopped yet, Lucas Auer, Pascal Wehrlein, Robin Frins, Bruno Spengler, Philip Eng, Matias Ekström and Jamie Green. And that's the car that you can see, or could see, middle screen, the number 53 Audi. So there is Glock, there's Paul di Resta, and there is Gary Paffett. And running behind Gary Paffett is the Joel Ericsson BMW. So Timo Glock, and we're on board with Rene Rast now, who of course is behind Mike Rockenfeller, following that Rocky getting past him in the pit lane effectively. So you can see bottom left-hand side of your screen as Rene Rast left foot brakes. And back on the throttle again. Oh, the back end of the car stepping out just a little bit. Well controlled by Rene Rast. He takes a bit of the curb, gets the apex just right. So here comes Lucas Auer. And Pascal Wehrlein into the pit lane. So Pascal Wehrlein, former DTM champion, of course. Again, just like Gary Paffett, millimetrically perfect. Keeps the car revving. This is 7.9, far from the quickest we've seen. And those tenths of seconds really do make a difference, don't they?
Definitely. You know, the driver can try and make maybe 1, maybe 2 tenths. You know, the grid is so close, they're fighting for hundredths of seconds. Whereas we're seeing quite big differences in the pit stops of around 1 and 2 seconds. So this is actually a massive part.
See, look at that, Jamie Green, just 7 seconds.
There you go. And the Audi crew obviously doing a good job. But what's interesting as well, we're seeing different techniques used by different teams. So some are changing the front and the rear.
Forgive me, here comes Gary Paffett on Paul di Resta. So Gary Paffett comes through now in the chase and charge towards Timo Glock. So he gets past Paul di Resta. So Gary Paffett now with 25 minutes plus 1 lap of this race left finds himself now effectively in P2. Of course, on the left-hand side of your screen, it will tell you he's in P7. That's because the likes of Auer, Fringe, Spengler, Eng and Ekström have not yet stopped. And here is Lucas Auer. Is he going to dive in this time? Yes, I think he is. He does. Now, this will be critical to see where Lucas Auer comes out. He's got to stop for 5 seconds, though, in the penalty box. So here comes Lucas Auer, serving this 5 seconds for jumping the start. 1, 2. It's almost that slow, isn't it? He gets going again, and now he can take his pit stop. Also coming in is Philip Eng, former teammate to Ricky Collard, who is alongside me here in GT racing.
But what's quite interesting here is you see some doing the front and then some doing the rears on a staggered system, whereas the conventional system is both do the rears, both do the front.
Right.
And it's interesting to see the difference.
Okay, Lucas Auer is on his way out now. Here comes Philip Eng, also on his way out in the number 25 BMW, the RBM car. So Lucas Auer then, cold tyres now, don't cross the white line, penalty if you do. He's back out and heading towards turn 2. There is Matias Ekström in car number 5, his last ever DTM race. And we're on board with Gary Paffett as he tries to close in on Timo Glock. So down through the gearbox, and Paffett is... well, now he's got past Paul di Resta. It's almost like he's been released, Ricky. He's clearly got the pace in the car, hasn't he?
Yeah, definitely. He's bringing that time deficit down. Look, there we go. So we can see in relation to Timo, it's gone from 2.7 down to 1.1.
That's a big margin to have brought down, isn't it?
That's a large margin. So Timo's going to have to pull something out the bag here.
2 out of 2 for the British Star this weekend. Ooh, wouldn't that be great? We will see. Gary, one of the DTM drivers, like all the DTM drivers, so looking forward to being back in the UK with DTM this year on the full GP circuit at Brands Hatch. Boy, I can't wait for that. So fastest lap comes from Gary Paffett, a 1:34.069. So 1:34.069. And there is Matias Ekström. Here is our race leader, effectively. Of course, the race leader is being shown as Robin Frins and Matias Ekström P2, but on this splitter cam. So the last 2 to stop will be Robin Frins and Matias Ekström. So this, we're on board with Timo Glock. Just look at the speed, 250 kilometers per hour. Yes, 251 kilometers per hour. As he starts to brake then for the hairpin. Wonderful to have that camera there to give us those images. Matias Ekström then, who of course will be about to, when he comes into the pit lane, it will be the final pit stop of his racing career, because it's not necessary in rallycross, which is where he will be focusing and concentrating his efforts. And I wonder what emotions are going through Matias Ekström as we were going down the grid at the start of the race. I mean, all the signatures across the bonnet of the car to say cheerio to Matias Ekström from this phenomenal DTM career that he has had. Well, I have a feeling when he heads towards the checkered flag, there will be a tear in his eye, I feel sure. So Matias Ekström chooses not to dive in yet. Gary Paffett, well, how's he doing? You're keeping your eye on the timing here, Ricky. Is he? He's hauling him in, isn't he?
Yes, he is. But what's interesting now is Glock will finally be able to use DRS. He's close enough now to Eki, so we should see the DRS being used. There he is, by both drivers now as they come onto the Parabolica.
You're absolutely right. Paffett will have DRS available to him. However, Timo Glock now also, because he's within a second of Matias Ekström, you can see the wing open, the rear wing opens, it gives the DRS benefit to Timo Glock, which negates the benefit Gary Paffett gets from his DRS. And of course, what we do know is that Timo Glock, having led the race, is going to have many more DRSs available to him. After saying that, Gary really closed in on him at the hairpin there.
I know, I think Eki didn't make it easy there for Glock to get past him. I think he went inside then outside, and Gary had quite a nice run from both of them. He obviously had like a double slipstream.
Yeah. Well, now this is effectively for the lead of the race, because Matias Ekström has not stopped yet. Timo Glock and Gary Paffett. So we're on board with Gary Paffett then. Inside his Mercedes as he chases down Timo Glock. There's under 20 minutes plus 1 lap of the race remaining. And there, the all-blue number 2 car, which is P2 currently. Here comes Glock, here comes Paffett, and in for the last time for his last pit stop, it is Matias Ekström, who has had a fantastic career in DTM. And he pulls into the garage for the ad team to go to work on that car. But just look at Gary Paffett. Now Timo Glock is vulnerable. Gary Paffett's DRS window open. Glock cannot use DRS to defend. He's not within a second of anyone. It's a real fight now. Parabolica. Here comes Gary Paffett. So look at this. It's down to under 5/10 between the two of them. Gary Paffett now, is he going to go inside, outside? Glock goes to the inside, Paffett around the outside. Glock stays with him though. They outbrake going towards the hairpin. Glock will now try and make the car as wide as possible, but Gary has got on the inside now. He needs to redeploy DRS to give him the slip through this turn, which becomes the inside for the next one. The overtake is done, job done.
Great close racing there. They both gave each other just enough room.
They're two very, very respectful drivers, aren't they, as you say? Gave them race room. Do you think Paffett just glanced Timo Glock off the back of the hairpin there?
It was extremely, extremely close. It'd be great to see now, because if he has, I think that Glock will remember that coming on to the next lap.
But look at this. Now we go back to DRS lap availability on the left-hand side of your screen. Gary has got merely 3 laps worth. Timo Glock has got 11. Now, Glock needs to stay within a second of Gary Paffett, doesn't he?
Gary's really going to have to work hard if he's going to try and pull out over a second, because you can only do that in the middle sector and the final sector. So let's see how Glock manages to hold on. And here, talk us through this.
Now, I want to see, just as they come off the hairpin, Ricky, whether, I mean, it was so close, millimetrically close. Now, that was so close. He just polished, I think, the rear corner of Timo Glock's car. I think it was just a little buff, wasn't it? Oh,
great.
Fantastic. Fantastic to see that in slow-mo.
Now,
here comes Glock. He's coming back at him now because, of course, he's got DRS, so Gary needs to stick his elbows out, and he does! Oh my goodness me! I mean, talk about defend. He really defended that. I mean, he's entitled to do that, isn't he?
He is indeed, but I don't think he did that on purpose. I think maybe he had a slight lock-up on the inside front,
Okay.
But it's just going to make the battle even better. I'm sure that it's going to urge Glock now to do even more to try and get past him.
Well, you know, Timo really does have that availability to him. So we will see. Here comes Glock. He ain't giving up this fight. Gary desperately trying to break the DRS window. What he needs to do, it can't be 5/10. He needs to get it up to a second, the margin between the two of them. And at the moment, Glock is still within that DRS window.
It's interesting as well, as they go into turn 12.
Let's look again. Let's look again. So you say you think this was a mistake? Sorry, Ricky Collard, I don't see any evidence of a lock-up there.
Hard racing, I think.
Hard but fair, isn't it?
Hard but fair. And
both cars were still within the white lines.
And here comes Glocky again with the DRS open. Round 2.
We've only got 16 minutes plus a lap. Goodness me. Like yesterday, the drama unfolds in front of us. It is DTM 2018. Jens Marquardt from BMW looks on. You don't very often see Jens looking quite so focused on the timing screen. Here comes Timo Glock to the inside now of Gary Paffett, and surely he will... Well, look at this as Gary Paffett gets the momentum off the back of the hairpin. How on earth did he do that?
But he's got DRS as well, so here we go. Another round coming up. Inside, outside, inside.
Now Glock will try and switch to the inside and get underneath Gary now. Gary once again uses the middle of the track by metaphorically sticking his elbows out. I'll tell you what, Timo Glock is fighting like never before. Two old stalwarts of racing here doing a fantastic job and providing such great entertainment for us. Timo Glock running over the rumble strips. He takes the inner part of the Sachs turn. Gary defending for all his worth. Glock attacking for all he's worth. So they complete another lap. The back end of the Glock car stepping out there on the second from last corner as he controls that. Gary was just super smooth, wasn't he?
Absolutely. But
6/10. So Glock has got DRS again.
Here comes another round.
Oh, brilliant.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yes,
clean fight, though, please, boys. Clean fight.
The bell sound effects brought to you by... No, I can't say that. Right, through turn 3, back out onto the Parabolica. This is where Glock flicks the DRS. Now, the window opens, the wing opens, I should say. This gives a real advantage to Timo Glock. But I'll tell you what, I don't think he's close enough. But he will get DRS off the back of the hairpin, won't he?
And here he comes again. He's going to go to the outside.
Oh, there is contact between the two of them this time. And Gary now. Glock with the inside. He needs to keep his foot in because this is the outside, actually, of this turn. But it becomes the inside for the next one. So Glock, presumably, as he runs Gary right out to the curbs. And that's to be expected, this fight between the two of them. It's extraordinary. Look at this. A little touch between the two of them. The back end of Glock's car just flitting out there.
Epic. Absolutely epic.
Brilliant.
I can hear the crowd inside.
They are loving this fight at the front. Whilst this is all going on,
multiple times on the rear.
Paul di Resta, who is lurking in P3, and one should not forget Joel Ericsson is lurking in P4.
And look at how many DRS usages
Di Resta has got. Yes, I still think that Paul di Resta may yet have the last laugh. We will see. But for now, Glock has put himself ahead of Gary Paffett. What Glock needs to try and do now is to pull himself out of the DRS window, or put himself into a position. Oh, let's see this again. Now, look at them. I mean,
awesome.
It could not be closer, could it? Oh, and look at the crowd. You're absolutely right. They're loving it, aren't they? Absolutely loving this fight. Okay, here we go again. Now, bear in mind, you can see here Gary now to the outside of Timo Glock. He runs him wide. All the time, these two are fighting. Paul di Resta and Joel Ericsson are getting ever closer, but Gary Paffett now on the inside through turn number 7. And Gary Paffett goes ahead. Here comes Timo Glock all the way around the outside. No! This is phenomenal. So they are trading places lap after lap. And for now, Paffett has gone back in front, but now look how vulnerable Gary is going to become with only 2 laps of DRS left.
Look at the sparks coming out of the car as well. They're both pushing as hard as they can. But it's interesting to see Glock is sticking with the lower line.
He is. You were talking about this line through Sachs turn yesterday.
So what it does, if you go lower, you can carry a higher entry speed and a little bit more in the mid, but then you lose on the exit, where we see Gary now pull out a bit more on the exit. But, you know,
now,
I think we could maybe see a surprise move come up from Glock maybe if Gary keeps leaving the door open.
Now, Gary has built 6 tenths. That's not enough, but that will have helped him. Timo Glock has gone out wide. So Gary has, what he needs to do is get that gap between himself and Timo Glock up to a second, but he ain't going to, because here comes Glock again with DRS availability here at the Parabolica. But Paul di Resta and Joel Ericsson are getting closer as well. So the window opens, this flap on the rear wing, the DRS flap is open on Timo Glock's car now. He will have it off the back of the hairpin also. He looks to the inside, and to be fair, room left for him by Gary, but Gary carrying a little bit more speed there. And here comes Joel Ericsson on Paul di Resta. So these two I have mentioned are getting ever closer to the warring parties in the P1 and P2 place. Here's Joel Ericsson on the inside. Oh, what a brilliant overtake from Joel Ericsson on Paul di Resta. Clean, tidy, executed perfectly.
His first ever weekend, P3.
Oh, brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Fantastic, come on Joel.
He did a great job
your foot down.
in qualifying, and now he's repeating that good job in the race as well. In the meantime, Gary Paffett is leading from Timo Glock. That ain't all over yet, that's for sure. And I don't think it's all over for Paul di Resta either, because he's still got 10 DRS laps of availability to him. That was a brilliant overtake from Joel Ericsson. It came from a long way back, didn't it?
I think so.
The inside, and then Paul di Resta is able to get back at him here, but Joel is obviously in the overtaking frame of mind, isn't he? Because it was here where it actually happened.
I think he almost played a bit of a dummy there. He went to go to the outside, and I think Paul thought, oh, yeah, okay, I've got this.
I think you're right.
And then he fought back, but here we go, another round coming up.
You cannot not be absolutely enthralled by this racing. Here comes Glock, stealth-like, on the back of Gary Paffett. To the inside goes Timo Glock now. Gary Paffett out wide. He'll try and come underneath Timo Glock now. But this time, it's Timo's turn. It's like this, isn't it?
Every lap.
Oh, it's incredible. So, oh, you can see a little bit of damage to the rear of Timo Glock's car. I just picked that up.
That one might have been a bit more of a polish then.
Yeah, okay. Okay. You can see a little bit of bodywork flapping on the back of the Timo Glock car. Gary Paffett P2, Timo Glock P1, Joel Ericsson P3. So Glock leading, there it is, you can see it there. That's not going to have any effect on the car, is it, Ricky?
Well, like we were talking about yesterday, it's good that the lap times are still really, really quick. But, you know, I think that might have a little bit of effect. But in previous years, that would have a massive, massive, massive effect with all this aerodynamics that are implicated in the car. But you can see it is starting to slide around a little bit.
So there was Glock. Oh, and that's where the contact came, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that has caused just a little bit of damage to the back end of the Timo Glock car. Look at Jens Marquardt, absolutely emotionless, the boss of BMW. That's why he's the boss, isn't it?
Absolutely, I think
he's your boss.
I think he's still waiting. He's counting the minutes down, I think. And but what a great show that these guys are putting on.
Like yesterday, Ricky, you and I have been on the air with this race. Look, we've only got 7 3/4 minutes plus 1 lap left. Where's the time gone? Here comes Paffett then, who does still have 2 laps of DRS availability to him. Timo Glock will try and make the all-yellow BMW as wide as possible. And there we can see Mike Rockenfeller on Paul di Resta as Mike Rockenfeller moves himself up into P4 now. And Rene Rast is coming as well. And Paffett and Glock side by side.
Again.
Whoa! And again to the inside now goes Gary Paffett. They are each and every turns where normally overtaking does not happen. They are trying. This is brilliant racing side by side from the both of them. Wow, and Gary just out onto the Astro, but maintains the speed and outbrakes going into that turn. Through the Sachs curve, and Timo Glock, well, he continues to hold on and just stays in front of Gary Paffett.
Half a lap side by side, the perfect racing we want to see. Just the right amount of respect. These guys have got so much respect for each other, but you know.
I'll tell you what, Ricky, I know we've only got 6.5 minutes left. Joel Ericsson is hunting. Joel Ericsson in P3, look at the pace he's got. He's lapping quicker than the top two drivers, the drivers that are in P1 and P2, because as they fight, Ricky, it's making them slower, isn't it?
And what's interesting to see now, we've got 8 uses of DRS for Joel. Wing is open already. This is going to be Gary's last chance.
This is the last lap, is it, of DRS use?
Here he goes. Inside or outside?
He's going to be vulnerable, isn't he? Right to the outside of Timo. Timo runs him as wide as he dares. Gary will try and come underneath now, but Joel Ericsson... Gary here is going to have to attack and potentially also defend as well. Look at this. He inches past Timo Glock. Does get past him going into the next turn. But Glock comes back on the inside. And Joel Ericsson is saying, come on, you two, keep fighting like this because I want to buy into this battle. On my first DTM race weekend, I'm in P3, but do you know what? I want to be even higher up on that potential podium. Whoa, the helicopter shot proving just how close these are racing. And I have to say, Ricky, I fear that we are going to see Gary drop down the order now because he will have taken so much out of the tyres and he will have no DRS usage left. And I just think, I mean, he has delivered some incredible race entertainment for us. And just look at the fans. They love it.
We all love this. We all love it. And I am going to be watching Joel Ericsson.
I think you're right.
Come the last 5 minutes.
Here we go. In replay, Ricky, look at this. As you said, you know, the respect between these two drivers. I mean, it's been one of the hardest fights. Look, people are jumping out of their seats. They cannot believe it. And heads in hands because it is so exciting.
But here comes Joel. Look, Gary has no DRS. He's going to be really, really vulnerable now. But if Joel can get past Gary, can he catch Timo?
Well, that will be really, really interesting to see, won't it? So Gary now adopts the, I'm going to make it as wide as I possibly can because he's got no other option available to him. Joel is on the outside, but if Joel can go around the outside here, he will have the inside for the next turn, which should put him ahead. There's a little bit of a touch between the two of them. Mike Rockenfeller is trying to buy into this as well. Here comes Gary Paffett back on Joel Ericsson and does it without any DRS help. Here comes Mike Rockenfeller on Joel Ericsson. As Joel has attacked, it's made him vulnerable to Mike Rockenfeller. Whoa! So Rocky now finds himself in P3. And Rene Rast, well, Team Phoenix on board the pit wall. I mean, goodness me. We have seen some extraordinary driving. On board with Rene Rast then, the DTM champion, who is currently P5, but with 3.5 minutes plus 1 lap. Don't bet on it staying that way. Glock leading, but he's got 9/10 on Gary Paffett, P2. Mike Rockenfeller, P3. Joel Ericsson, P4. So Rocky now, given where we saw yesterday, the race pace of the Audis, Ricky, Mike Rockenfeller and Rene Rast, and also Loic Duval, yeah, actually, in race pace, they're performing really well today.
All of them are there or thereabouts, and what's going to be interesting now is if Rocky can get within a second, which he isn't quite on this lap, but I definitely bet he will be on the next lap. I could see another fight. Gary's got 1 lap. This is probably the first lap where Gary hasn't had to attack or defend. So I think he's going to have to put his defensive hat back on because Rocky's going to be all over him.
Pascal Wehrlein has got past Paul de Resta as I pause to take a breath. This is a battle for P7. Pascal Wehrlein then ahead of the Paul de Resta car. Those drivers that are out of DRS availability, Paffett, crucially, who's running in P2. Also Nico Muller and Philip Eng, who are running down there in P13 and P14. But this 6-strong train of cars with 2 minutes plus 1 lap left. What can Mike Rockenfeller do? What can Joel Ericsson do? Be a dream come true for him to finish on the podium in his first ever DTM race weekend. Surely he's got 5 DRSs available to him, but he needs to be able to retake Mike Rockenfeller. So Glock from Paffett, from Rockenfeller, then it is Joel Ericsson. Ricky, on the timing screen, who is quick?
Well, I'm having a look on the timing screen now. I think everyone is so close. What's interesting to see now is Rocky is within DRS usage on Paffett. So we're going to see a fight now for Paffett to hold on to P2 whilst Rocky tries to take it off him.
And this is where he's going to use it, isn't he? Oh! Rene Rast is out wide! Whoa, that was a big save from Rene Rast, who held on to that. But he will be vulnerable to Loic Duval. And sure enough, Loic Duval, and here comes Mike Rockenfeller, exactly as you predicted on Gary Paffett from the helicopter then. And Joel Ericsson also trying to buy into this. Tell you what, you can see what a class act Gary Paffett is in terms of his drivability, his racecraft. He knows he has to defend. He knows he's got no DRS left. He just has to drive every centimetre of tarmac that he can and make sure he pitches the car in the perfect place to try and deny Mike Rockenfeller. Timo Glock, of course, is rubbing his hands with invisible soap, saying, "You carry on, I'm up the road."
Glocky's had to work hard for it, though.
Oh, he has. Oh, he has. But both of them have been fantastic. And well, it's all quiet in the garages, and not surprising, really. You can hardly catch your breath. Right, we're into just 20 seconds of this race left. Are they going to cross the timing line before the clock counts down to 0? With some debris there. That looks like debris off either the Lucas Howe or the Jamie Green car, I would say, from the colour. They do cross the timing line with 5 or 6 seconds left. So now I don't know whether that debris, I think it was from the Lucas Howe car, I think so. Debris on the track.
The only problem we're going to have here is now if cars are running side by side, you know, we don't want to see anybody. We had bird strike yesterday.
Yeah, we did.
We don't want to see any debris causing an impact.
Here comes Rocky on Gary Paffett then, as they head towards the hairpin. Whoa, there's almost a touch between the two of them. Gary Paffett makes sure his car is right in the middle of the track, and then to the outside, here comes Mike Rockenfeller. Gary needs to keep his foot in here to get ahead of the Mike Rockenfeller car. Not for this turn, but for the next one, because Rocky is going to have the inside line, isn't he? So Rocky runs Gary out wide. Joel Ericsson tries to buy into it as well. Here comes Gary Paffett coming back at Mike Rockenfeller. There's the debris. Rocky's gone right over it.
How did Gary keep hold of that position?
Well, he did, but here comes Joel Ericsson now on Mike Rockenfeller. So around the next turn, thank goodness for these heli shots, which are able to show us just how this is unfolding. I wonder whether Mike Rockenfeller might have caused damage to his car running over that debris. Here it is. No, he just glanced it and it got thrown and discarded away.
That's one way to remove it.
Right.
Here we go, last lap. Who's your money on for P2? Because right. I think you can select any one in this train of 6 cars.
I know one thing. I wish right now I was sitting at the hairpin, because that's where it's all gonna start, in my opinion. Glock should be safe. Here's Paffett. Here's Rocky. And Joel Ericsson lurking just behind, and so too Loic Duval with one of the best drives in his DTM career.
I think Rocky's got him this time, but will he be able to hold it on the apex?
So Rocky opens the DRS then on his rear wing. He needs to get right ahead of Gary Paffett, and Paffett outbrakes him going into the hairpin. Joel Ericsson and Loic Duval all having a go. This time Rocky tries again off the back of the hairpin. This is a carbon copy of what happened last lap. This is outstanding driving in DTM for 2018. Surely Rocky's done enough now. Paffett comes back at him. Joel Ericsson just waiting to pick up the pieces if he can. So too Loic Duval. Timo Glock has checked out almost. Wow. So we have but a few turns left in this second of the races in this opening DTM weekend. And what a race it has been. So there is Timo Glock who will round the final turn, and for BMW, you know, he just came and came and came, and well,
there we go. That's what we like to see.
Absolutely. More donuts, please. Of course, it's a very sad occasion that we see those donuts from Matias Ekström, because it is his final race weekend in DTM, and for that we are very sorry. But you know what? I'm not convinced we've seen the last of Matias Ekström in DTM. I hope not. Ricky, what a race. What a race. Remarkable. And it's been won by this man, Timo Glock.
Thanks to my car crew.
Absolutely thrilled to bits.
This is unbelievable.
Race 2 win, Timo Glock, to add to his P3 place yesterday. Well, he brings the number 16 BMW back as the team await their driver. And do you know what was really nice about Timo during qualifying is on the team radio, as he set that pole position, that he said just how much it was down to the team as well. One very happy BMW boss is Jens Marquardt.
He certainly is absolutely raving. Congratulations to a phenomenal race, but oh my, when did we see racing like that the last time? And honestly, how fast is your heart beating and what are your nerves doing?
My nerves are absolutely calm. My heart is not beating at all. I'm super relaxed and no, fantastic, really. But this is really where you can say all measures that we put in place were the right ones. Yeah, we got super tight fighting, all three brands right there. A super race, fair, hard racing as you want to see it. And I hope it's worth everybody who came here today on this beautiful weather. And obviously, hopefully also everybody who saw it on TV.
It was a brilliant race. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Back to you.
Thanks. And there were two words that Jens Marquardt said there, which are absolutely right. It was hard, but it was fair as well.
Absolutely. And that is what all the drivers want. That is what all the fans want. And, you know, long live this sort of racing. This is just epic. And like I said, we had all three manufacturers,
yes,
all on the top three steps of the podium.
This is Matias Ekström. You'll forgive us for focusing on this as he lights up the rear tyres because he's saying cheerio to the legions of fans that have supported Matias Ekström throughout his very, very successful DTM career. He's doing donuts nearly as well as you can, Mr. Collard. That's brilliant. Smoke out those rear tyres as he says thank you to the fans who are here in their thousands this weekend. Very, very sad that it is Matias Ekström's last DTM weekend. And as I mentioned earlier, I had the privilege of sitting down with him as Timo Glock stands on top of his car to celebrate his race win.
That will mean a lot to him.
Let's see the reaction between himself and Gary Paffett. Look at this. I mean, that was two absolute masters racing together, Ricky.
Perfect, absolutely perfect. And look at the
respect.
And
the respect between them is, well, it's almost eye-watering to see because it was blooming hard out there, wasn't it?
Definitely, and I think for all young drivers as well watching this, this is what it's all about. This is what it's all about.
Absolutely remarkable. There's Mike Rockefeller. I mean, all three of them.
Oh, he's blown the tyres up.
Well done, Matias. That's exactly what we want to see you do.
The poor guys from Howdy have to run over. He was honest. He was going for about whilst we shot over.
Terry Grant-esque, wasn't it?
Freshly baked them ones, I can tell you.
Yes, we're on the rim now. Never mind.
I think he actually went onto the grass a couple of times.
Oh,
legend!
What a race! And there, Matias Ekström saying cheerio to his fans. When I sat down and talked to him, it was so important for him to be able to do this. And you know, you have to have huge respect for a racing driver because, you know, I don't know, does a big fan base make any difference to you as a racing driver? And he said, absolutely, yes, it does, Dave. That's what's left of that.
Still going. He's still going. He hasn't lifted, I can promise you that.
Confirmation then of the result. Taking the win, Timo Glock from Mike Rockefeller, Gary Paffett. Then it was Joel Ericsson, that's a phenomenal performance from Joel for P4. Loic Duval, Pascal Wehrlein, Rene Rast, Bruno Spengler, Paul de Resta, and Augusto Farfus, the top 10. Followed by Marco Wittmann, Robin Frins, Nico Muller, Philip Eng, Lucas Auer, Matias Ekström, Jamie Green. Then it was Daniel Juncker-Deyer, and of course we lost Eduardo Mortara, who retired the car during the course of the race. And apologies to all those other drivers who we didn't talk about during the course of the race, and the reason we didn't was because the action at the front was just so compelling. Absolutely extraordinary. So Matias Ekström, I suspect with a tear in his eye, and Timo Glock with a tear of joy in his eye. It was just an incredible, well, I was going to say a few laps, but it wasn't a few laps, Ricky, was it? It was lots and lots of laps.
It was from start to finish. We had cars not making it off the grid. We had side-by-side action. We had a little bit of contact, not too much. Pit stops that were going wrong, pit stops that were going extremely well. Yeah, debris on the track. No bird strike this time, which is always a positive. But amazing. And look at this.
Timo Glock going towards the checkered flag, then the team hanging over the pit wall to salute him as he takes the win. Brilliant stuff. So Timo Glock is victorious at Hockenheim. Let's hear from him now.
Timo, that was an absolutely amazing race. I counted the overtaking maneuvers 8 times, and in the end you mastered it and you won this race. It's your 5th win. Is this the proudest you're about this race?
The proudest of my whole career, I think. There was only one similar fight I had with Lewis Hamilton in GP2 in Turkey 2007, but this was insane. And I just can say, and this I will say all day long, why the fuck Mercedes is leaving this championship. This is the show, this is racing, this is what we showed today. They should not leave. This is motorsport, this is racing, and this was the best fight. I mean, I have to take my hat off from Gary. It was so hard, but it was still fair, and it was insane. I mean, I don't know in what world I was today, but it was different. And I just said, when I saw Eki coming, staying out, blocking me at the end, which cost me the gap that Gary could get into DRS, I was at this stage I was safe. I just drove as quick as I had to, and then the DRS effect on the Mercedes was so big that I had to defend all the time, and I said, okay, I don't give this win up. I try as long as possible. That's what I did.
You're just out of this world. Congratulations. That really, truly was amazing. Back to you.
Well, first of all, apologies for the colourful language from Timo Glock. You can understand in the emotions. And I have to say, Ricky, I agree with his sentiments. You know, when you look at racecraft like that and the entertainment that's been put on, I mean, DTM is just awesome, isn't it? Absolutely awesome. And Mercedes, Gary Paffett, what a weekend he's having.
Gary, what was that all about? That was crazy racing at its best. I was saying to Timo, 8 times you guys tried back and forth, and now you're second. You gave it your best, so you've got to be proud after all. It is a fantastic race.
Yeah, I did everything I could to win that race. You know, I easily could have sat there in second and easily got second. I finished 3rd in the end, so I lost the place because of the fighting, but I'm a racer and I want to win, you know, and that's all it was. It was just the desire to win. So obviously disappointed to finish 3rd, but what a race. I mean, the TV time was worth it. It was incredible.
And honestly, you came from P10, so that's 7 positions you made up. That's a perfect 3rd place.
I was incredible. The start was amazing. I got up to P5 after the first lap, which was incredible. And the car just switched on. It was amazing. After the second stop, after the pit stop, I caught Paul past him and I caught Timo. The car was amazing. And yeah, it was quick enough to win, but that's racing, so.
Thank you so much, Gary. And here's Rocky, and you've got a big smile on your face, coming all the way from, I think, 9, all the way to 2nd place in the last seconds. Where did you come from, and where did you get the speed? That was amazing.
Well, I think we always showed in the previous years that we had a good race pace. Yesterday it didn't work out. We tried a similar strategy. We tried to be early, but I didn't have a pace. I think yesterday was already a top 5 finish possible, but we didn't manage. We adjusted the car to the right window today for me. I could play around, and position 9 in qualifying was not the best, but it was very close, as always in DTM. And then, man, the race came, and we were just going for it, and my team did a great strategy, and I was fighting like hell with Gary at the end, and also Ericsson. Was really one of the best DTM races I did, for sure, especially in the front and the last fights. It was really good for the sport, I think.
You guys have to promise to keep this up for the next race weekend.
We try.
Thank you very much, Rocky. Wow, back to you.
Why can't Lausitzring be next weekend? We've got a weekend gap, haven't we, before we go back to DTM racing, which will be at the Lausitzring, 18th to the 20th of May. And based on the experience we've had this weekend, you cannot miss a lap of it, as the drivers have delivered a phenomenal race. There is Timo Scheider, of course, former two-time DTM champion, congratulating Gary Paffett and Timo Glock. Hard but fair. That's exactly what we want to see. This motor racing business, of course, it's very serious sport, Ricky Collard, but the thousands of fans want to be entertained because there is an element of showbiz, isn't there?
Absolutely, and what was really interesting to hear was Gary. I could have finished second. But I didn't.
I'm a racer.
But I'm a racer, and I didn't want to. So, Gary, we salute you. That was definitely the right thing to do. But look at all of them. They're just ear to ear with a grin and a smile. And I think everyone is. Look. There you go,
Gary. What racing we have seen.
Muss es Gary bitte aussagen, weil das war ich will die Bilder unbedingt.
The reason we've gone quiet is to try and listen in to what's being said. Well, the podium is being readied, and we will see Glock, Rockenfeller and Paffett on the podium, and here in super slow-mo to music, the top three racers. And just before we get to the podium, I've got to say a big thank you to racing driver alongside me, BMW Junior, Ricky Collard. I know you've got to go now because you have other duties to do. Thanks for being with us in comms over the weekend. You've done a great job and we've seen two fantastic races.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure to be here this weekend, and I hope to maybe be back up here sometime soon. Unfortunately, I won't be at the Lausitzring because I'm in doing the Blancpain. Yeah.
You're
awesome.
A racer.
I'm a racer.
You're a racer. But
on that note,
whenever you've got a moment, you're always welcome here. Ricky Collard, then BMW Junior, who joined us for comms this weekend, and great to have him alongside us to give us the racing driver's perspective of everything that was going on out there. And there was a lot. There was a lot. That's for sure. So the driver standing by to get out onto the podium then, and Timo Glock wears the Hankook first cap because, of course, he was victorious. A brilliant job done by Timo Glock and Mike Rockenfeller and Gary Paffett. At the risk of repeating myself, another phenomenal mention must go to Joel Ericsson in his debut DTM race weekend, finishing P4 to add to his P12 finish yesterday. Remarkable performance from Joel Ericsson, a rookie to watch, and we all know what rookies can do in DTM because Rene Rast took the DTM championship last year and in his rookie year. So good stuff. We think the drivers are making their way to the podium now. Sure enough, there is Timo Glock. He's a showman and we love him for it. Top step of the podium for Timo Glock. Gary Paffett could have settled for P2 but wanted to take the win, and in so doing losing a place, which means Mike Rockenfeller will be on the second step of the podium for taking P2. And what a phenomenal drive from the British driver. He's taken a win and a P3 this weekend in DTM. And he goes to the third step of the podium. Look, all the drivers having thoroughly enjoyed that race, which is so, so important, and putting on a fantastic show for the thousands of spectators here, and of course, the spectators all around the world on TV. Ingo Leibrink there from BMW as the national anthem plays out. So the anthem plays out, and the trophies are about to be presented. And what trophies they are too, as Timo Glock, having driven such a phenomenal race, receives his trophy from Sébastien Ogier, who is here to make the trophy presentation to Timo Glock. Here comes P2 from Dieter Gummer, the Lord Mayor of Hockenheim. No, it's the team's trophy, of course, that Dieter is presenting. Mr. Mick Doohan, who is here, making the trophy presentation to Mike Rockenfeller. And Gary Paffett gave it his all. And His Royalty makes the trophy presentation to Gary Paffett, who drove the most phenomenal race. As he said, he could have settled and banked P2, but he was going to go for the win. That meant he lost out. Well, he delivered some fantastic entertainment for us in so doing. So the drivers all together, and Stefan Reinheld as well, all onto the podium. Top step for the photographs. And then it'll be time for champagne. And I just think the celebrations might be quite boisterous up there. So there we are, a fitting end to a phenomenal race for DTM. Rocky sharing the champagne with those below the podium. So Timo Glock, Mike Rockenfeller and Gary Paffett. That's going to be talked about for a while yet, isn't it? So down there in just behind the Parc Ferme area then, all those members of the team that come along to support everyone. So BMW, Audi, Mercedes-Benz, all represented on the podium in the top 3 places. It could not be better. So, of course, the focus of the world's media on our top 3 as we think and look ahead to the next round at the Lausitzring between the 18th and the 20th of May as Timo Glock receives his race-winning trophy. Over the course of the season, we head to Lausitzring, Budapest, Norrisring, that brilliant street circuit, Zandvoort, Brands Hatch in the UK on the big GP circuit, Misano, night races, Nürburgring, Spielberg, and of course, we will be back here for the final round of DTM in the middle of October as we round out the season 2018. What a weekend we have had here at Hockenheim 1.
So this truly was an amazing first race weekend here at the DTM, and I'm looking forward to Lausitzring, and I hope we will again see racing at its best. So now here are the highlights. Enjoy and see you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.